My name's Adele Onyango and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hi, welcome to episode 110 of Legally Clueless. Thanks for rocking with this podcast. If you are new to the family, welcome. Remember, you can join us on Twitter. Just use the hashtag Legally Clueless. I will find you. And on Instagram, we're at Legally Clueless Podcast, and on YouTube, because we have the video series ongoing, you can find us at Legally Clueless. The links to all of those pages are in the description of this episode. If this is not your first time, thank you for rocking with this podcast. The community is growing and I'm so thankful. I'm really excited about the story you will hear in this episode because of how inspiring it is, but because it references suicide, I do know that's something that could be very triggering. So in case you're not in the space where you can absorb conversations around that, you may want to give this episode a pass because the story featured definitely highlights that. And so does the teaser of the story, which I'm just about to play.
But I just never seemed satisfied. It led me down a dark path because at some point in time, I tried to take my life. So when I was in South Africa, therapy became mandatory because number one, I was an international student. I'm not lying to you, Adele. Like I left that session like I was on cloud 9. And then she said that I would like you to continue therapy sessions. And I was like, hey, if I'm going to feel like this, no problem. There's a lot of stigma and then there are a lot of questions. And of course, like my mom, like immediately I landed at the airport, she's like, let me see, Abu remove. And I was like, no, it'll come in its time. So of course the questions of why would you want to do it? I started training guys, no fee and anything. So guys would come, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody started asking me like, how much do you charge? We've been blessed that TriFit has gotten to that point where it's almost a household name in the triathlon industry in Kenya. I feel like I found my purpose. I have some clients who couldn't walk. And Adele, these are guys now who cycle 180 kilometers.
The storyteller's name is Michael, and we'll get to his story a little later in this episode. I hope you're doing well. I have found two things, which I've been doing before, but I found that they've really helped me navigate the past week's madness, and also just as I shared in the last episode, the dark thoughts that I was having this past week. Those thoughts really did reduce drastically, but I was anal about everything that I was meant to do, and I also had like a really good session with my therapist. So the two things, let me get back to that, the two things that I've been doing more of is journaling, which I've always sworn by, but for some reason I just kind of lacked the energy to jot down any of the thoughts in my head. Also because they were such dark thoughts that seeing them on paper was a bit scary. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it was like, oh my God, is that really what I'm thinking? Like, what does this really mean? And that was also one of the reasons I hesitated in sharing those thoughts with people around me, well, people being far and like a close friend. Even when I'd share them, I'd be like, I'm having some really dark thoughts, and I wouldn't go into the intricacies just because the thoughts were freaking me out. So I didn't want to freak out the people around me. But with time, I have been more honest about them, especially with the people I feel safe around. So journaling, got back heavy on that tip this week, and then breathing exercises. So I normally do a lot of my breathing exercises in the car. It's interesting. I'm not too sure why, but whenever I'm having like crazy anxiety, like I did on Friday morning, it's always caught me when I'm like either driving to a meeting or something. So I found myself doing a lot of my breathing exercises in the car. But now on Friday, I was like trying to do my breathing exercises while having my mask on, which it just does not work. But I had to keep my mask on because I just read the story of, Kenyan cops are just irrational. So I'd read a story of this guy getting arrested because he didn't have his mask on in his car and he was driving alone. So I was just like, okay, you know what? I have to like take it off, do my breathing exercises, put it back on really quick. But it helped. I managed to go for my meeting and ended up having a really good meeting, which was with my Trace people, because it's almost a year since Legally Clueless was syndicated on Trace. So on the 7th of May, we hit 1 year of Legally Clueless on Trace Radio in Kenya, which is super exciting. What's even more exciting is that they want to continue the partnership, because you always have those, maybe that's where the anxiety is coming from, I'm not sure, but you always are like, oh, are they enjoying this partnership? So the meeting went well, but yeah, my breathing exercises in Corona times are a bit restricted by the masks, but we have to keep safe. But I'm also super excited because tomorrow, obviously I'm recording this on Sunday, which is my production day. Tomorrow I'm going on my timeout. So remember in January, I went on a solo trip. That one was mainly for me to get a lot of poetry written, which I did, but I also did enjoy just the change of environment, the reconnecting with myself. I really enjoyed it, and I remember saying to you that I want to do this every 3 months. Well, here we are. So tomorrow I am going for my next trip. It's not going to be a solo trip because I do want to film it, but it's in a remote area. And it's in a space where I can, to some extent, switch off. Because the thing that's hard when you're either an entrepreneur or a freelancer or running things yourself or anything that is not employed is that it's hard to completely switch off because clients can reach out to you at any point in time. Because it's business, you know, it's kind of hard to be like, I'm resting. You know, if I had another member of staff, it would be easy to kind of completely switch off. Would it be easy? I say that, but I'm a control freak, so I'm not sure. I'll see when I get there. But now that I'm alone, it's hard because, yeah, I'm alone. And the business needs to pay certain costs. So there's certain things that I have to do weekly. But I'm hoping that having a change of environment, I've bought like really good books that I want to go and read. Obviously, I'm carrying my writing laptop so I can maybe squeeze in a bit of writing, but I'm not going to be anal about it because I really just want to breathe and rest. I'm just excited that I get to have a change of environment this week. So super excited. And also I'm happy that I'm doing this. Like I said, I want to do it every 3 to 4 months and I'm actually doing it. I actually committed to putting aside a little bit of money to be able to allow me to do this every 3 to 4 months. So what I do is now when I come back, I'll start again for 3 to 4 months, putting aside some money so that on the 4th month or the 3rd month, I'm able to just like get a change of environment. Yes, I'm excited. Okay, so let's jump into the song of the week. I really like the song because of how it starts. So it starts with a sound that actually wakes me up. I'm very fortunate that while still living in the concrete jungle that is Nairobi, and there's many things wrong with the area that we live in, but every morning between 5 a.m. and probably 6:30 or even sometimes 7, the birds, oh my God, the sound of the birds, it's like they're having multiple choirs. It sounds so beautiful to me, but maybe they're even like beefing with each other, but it sounds so beautiful in the morning. So this particular song starts with the sound of birds chirping. It's so beautiful. It's just such a beautiful song, not even in terms of the lyrics, because I'm not even sure I connect with any of the lyrics, but there's some vibe in the song that I love. And it's by Erykah Badu featuring Andre 3000. The name of the song is Hello. So I'm going to put a link to it in the description of this episode so you can check it out. You know what I love doing when I'm listening to the song is like, so I'll play it on my Bluetooth speaker, sit in the corner of our balcony with hibiscus tea and just like people watch. And it's just a very calming song. I hope it has the same effect on you. All right, let's jump into 100 African stories. As I said earlier on in this episode, the storyteller is Mikey, aka Michael. So Michael it's so interesting. Michael was in university with my partner Fal. They were in South Africa together. I believe at one point they lived together while in South Africa. I'm not sure. I could be lying and they'll listen to this and be like, you never listen to our stories. But I think they lived together at a point because they were in the same university. And then it's such a small world. Turns out I was in the same class in primary school with Michael's sister, Anita. Yeah, such a tiny world. Anyway, so Michael has set up a fantastic triathlon fitness company called Team TriFit. Obviously, I don't participate in the grueling sport that is triathlons. But Fal has done quite a few triathlons in the past. Our house is full of bicycles everywhere. They're literally bicycle, what are these things? Tires. At my feet right now. He started storing them in my office. It's so irritating. But wow, I have gone on a tangent. Anyway, back to Michael. He talks about looking for purpose and a very dark moment in his life when he felt like he couldn't find it, that culminated in him trying to take his life, and then him coming back home, trying to find that purpose still, and then finding it in triathlons and his fitness company. 100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
My name is Michael Maranga Owora, born, raised, currently living in Nairobi, Kenya. I am a triathlete by hobby. I'm a triathlon coach and public relations practitioner and consultant by profession. And I'm a man of God by calling. I came to realize that I'm actually living a daydream that I had maybe 2011. And I used to work for my mom. She runs a PR consultancy. I remember I was watching, because I was a triathlete then, like a very active one. Now I'm just like a regular Joe triathlete. But I was very active and things like that, racing, trying to race competitively. And I remember I was in the office and I was watching this video, and there's this top triathlete in the world. He's called Jan Frodeno. And like you see him at midday, he's like running through the park. And I was like, man, look, he's going for a swim, and then he's going to go for a run. Then he's going to sleep at 2 p.m. I'm just going to be on this desk holding in my fart because it was an open space. And I was like, I need that life. I actually loved my job at the time. Number one, I was working for my mom. My mom she was a hard boss, but she also gave you free reign to do whatever you want. And I was doing communication. I studied communication. You're in your 20s, you're either flying to Uganda or flying to Mombasa. You're working with this corporate, that corporate. You're doing your best to create policies and strategies that will actually have long-term impact. So it was a fantastic thing. But you see, at the end of the day, all the clients I had was like, how much money will the client make? And it gets to a point in your life where, whether you like it or not, you're yearning for something more. You want to give back. And I think that's where I would like to say my journey in faith started, because I just didn't have the satisfaction that everyone around me seemed to have. And I started getting it from triathlon, because I'd finish the race and I'd be happy, and you're in your beautiful places. You're at the coast. If you're lucky and budget was there, you travel to South Africa and things like that. So it was a fantastic opportunity being in the corporate world, but I just yearned for something more. My roommate in uni, shout out to you, Falgun, wherever you are, actually did human movement science. So I used to steal his books. Well, now you know. You never knew, but now you know. I used to steal his books, read and stuff like that. I used to ride his bicycle, wear his triathlon swimsuit. Much to his dismay, but because I used to cook for him, he couldn't say anything. So I was actually studying PR and communication, but by virtue of that, we were somewhat interlinked. That season of university literally changed my life. I think even then, maybe my 20s was an entire season of looking for yourself. I was, for the first time in my life, I was on the dean's list, and not for making noise in class. It was actually for doing well. And I won this golden key honor. I got onto the golden key honors role and stuff like that. We had started this DJ company, and we had some of the hottest, I put that in very bold quotes, hottest parties and stuff like that. But I just never seemed satisfied. And it led me down a dark path, because at some point in time, I tried to take my life. And I was like, okay. I like to make a joke. My mom doesn't like it. But I always say that I tried, and then God was like, nah, bruv, I got some work for you down there. You need to go and stay there. And that was 2006. Given the opportunity, I'd like to say thank you to Silas, thank you to Falgun. They stood by me. They took my shenanigans. They supported me. They agreed and disagreed with me, and then of course shipped me back to Kenya. when I landed in Kenya, ironically, it was, the funniest thing was that get your head right, get into a good space, heal, and then go back to uni. Let's say that didn't happen. I think the uni is still waiting for me to come. So luckily, when I came back, I would like to say I started from the bottom. My friend gave me a job as a waiter at their restaurant. So it was when I look back, it was a fantastic opportunity because it helped me build my confidence, because you have to talk to people, you have to interact. And there's one thing my counselor and my therapist told me then. It's like, Michael, you're very used to bottling things up. Being here on Legally Clueless is testament to that, having shed that. Because naturally I would have never had this conversation with people. I would have tried to bottle it in and things like that. So my therapist said that she actually gave me very scary statistics, and that was 2006, 7, and she was like, I'm surprised you got to 24, because people who've gone through what you've gone through are generally attempt to take their life, or sometimes unfortunately succeed, maybe 16, 17, 18. And then when I came back, I was still yearning for that desire to impact. And then my mom was like, I'll give you a job, you're gonna earn less than what you're earning now, but it will give you exposure to something different. So I took it head on. I remember I went to work in an untucked shirt, sneakers, and a formal trouser. And my mom gave me an advance, and she said, please go and buy proper clothes. Still remember that, Mom. And I think that's when the corporate, quote-unquote, corporate journey started. Now, this is the funniest thing. So when I was in South Africa, therapy became mandatory because, number one, I was an international student. I went to hospital. By virtue of the prevailing laws of the land at that time, I would have found myself in a tricky situation. So the doctors were kind enough and said, we've done a quick analysis and he seems okay. But we would like him to go and see this therapist tomorrow at 9 o'clock. And then from there, once she gives her evaluation, we'll know what to do going forward. So I was taken to a proper institution. And they took me for a grand tour. And I think that's when I realized that, yes, I do have challenges. And I say that because everybody has challenges unique to them. So I don't want to look at somebody else and be like, yo, man, I don't have challenges. Other people have challenges. Because that guy could be looking at me and saying, yo, that guy has problems. If he's not in a straight jacket, then he's lost. He's done. So I went for therapy, and I think that was my longest session ever, because I think it was 5.5 hours. Like, she literally cancelled all her sessions and stuff like that. And we sat down because she said every rolling hour, she loved it because it was undoing a ball of thread. And she was like, I just want you to unpack. And I was crying and all these things that I didn't know that existed inside me, like literally just started coming out. So maybe I just needed the platform to candidly and openly share. And I'm not lying to you, Adele, like I left that session like I was on cloud 9. Like I was like, yo. And she said, yes, you've released. And she said, from there, if you feel something, speak, share, find somebody to talk to, call me, blah, blah, blah. And then she said that I would like you to continue therapy sessions. And I was like, hey, if I'm going to feel like this, no problem. And the best thing about the uni was that they actually had psychology as a course. And she said, since you're in a fantastic university, go and speak to this doctor who is actually a lecturer, and she can continue with your sessions. And we continued, and it was good. It was very, to date, I always encourage every man that I interact with at any given point in time. Like, if you have the opportunity, man and woman, children, talk to a counselor, talk to a therapist. There is a lot that we have inside us that we don't know affects how we interact and react to things. So when I came back, I took a break from therapy because I felt like I was okay. Now, this is the funniest thing. When you come from let me call it a bed of suicide, there's a lot of stigma, and then there are a lot of questions. And of course, like my mom, like immediately I landed at the airport, she's like, let me see, Abu, remove. And I was like, no, it'll come in its time. So of course the questions of why would you want to do it? You're blessed, you have everything. And I kept giving examples of, top line celebrities. He has the money, he has the cars, he has the jewelry, he has the wife, the kids, but they're still taking their lives. So they have everything. And as 2000 rolled into 2007 rolled into 2008 and 9 and things like that, I just came to realize, yes, you have you have the things that society deems as important, but then you're still not happy. And so I started looking for fulfillment, affirmation, and all these things for me, because of my walk in faith now, I would like to call them vices. So like you go partying and you'd want to be the coolest guy at the party, loudest guy at the party. You want to have the hottest girlfriend. You want to be the one buying the bottles, or you want to be the one driving the latest car. Not considering that time I had a Toyota, so I don't know what latest car I was driving. It was also not the latest Toyota. So fast forward to, I think, maybe like 2014 is when I started therapy again. And I don't want to say it was it was not because of a dark time. It was actually because of a bright time in my life. But it was a situation that I couldn't enjoy. That was now my struggle. And so this was the funniest part. So 2014, I called this guy. I'm like, hi, how are you? You remember we met on this and this day. Now I'm in this situation. So can you talk to these friends of mine, and can you talk, men, it's either money or women. So can you talk to that chick so that she can calm down, and then like we can figure out this story. To date, he is literally a father figure in my life. So I thank God for him, and I love him today. So shout out to you, Edwin Kiptinis, wherever you are. He listened to me. I'll never forget. I was driving on Aringskodek Road. There was some funny Chinese restaurant where now Quick Mart is. And I called him. I'm like, yo, I know I'm sobbing. And I'm like, I need your help, man. I can't believe this has happened to me. And I literally parked on the road for 3 hours. It didn't beat the 5 hours. It was 3 hours. And he listened. Like I'd run out of airtime, top up again, call. And he was like, just listen. He'd listen. And he said, okay, fine. So after that, I went for a session at his clinic. And we sat and we talked. And he was and he's just listening. And he said, okay. And then he asked me one question that just floored me. And he's like, so let me ask you, what do you think you did to contribute to the situation that you're in? And I'm like, haven't you been listening to me for the last 3 hours? What's wrong? What? I told you she has done this, she has done that. My mother did this, my father did this, my sister. He's like, do you think your father, your mother, your sisters, your brothers, maybe had expectations of you that you didn't meet, had goals for you that you didn't meet, and then now here we are. So do you think maybe your desire to take your life influenced how they act and react around you? And at that moment, I'm not going to lie to you, Adele, it's like, the blinds were removed, because I realized, and I'll confess it, I realized how selfish I had lived my life. And I realized that it was all about me. It was all about the money. It was all about getting, what everyone is running after for in today's world. You want the nice car, you want the nice house, the nice job, the beautiful wife, the fantastic kids who speak, fantastic English, like they go to the King's College, and things like that. And you want everything to tick a box, but you keep asking yourself, are you truly fulfilled? So now that marked my second or third journey into therapy, and I'm not going to lie to you, till today I'm living my best life. Like I shared earlier, I am able to run at Karura Forest, or which is the park, depending on where you are. At midday, I'm able to ride my bicycle on any given day of the week. I swim, and then on top of that, I train people to do exactly that, and I can see their lives transform. A lot of people, I joke and I tell people I don't train people for the money. I train people to see their lives change, because triathlon is a lifestyle change, and I've seen what it has done for me, because it's forced me to be more disciplined. It's forced me to be more conscious of my health, to be more aware of whatever is around me. When I fuse that with my faith and my walk in faith, and I begin to realize, and I think, like I said in 2014, it's like the blinds were removed, and I was like, yo. So I actually reached out to a lot of people that I felt I had slighted deliberately, and or should I say directly and indirectly. I either wrote letters or I called, I seeked them out, and it was not about whether we're going to be like best of friends and stuff like that going forward, but it was actually to say, I'm sorry. And I came to realize that this is who I am. When I look back, it's like I was in a funk, just trying to understand, why am I doing what I'm doing? According to me, I had a beautiful girlfriend, but I still wasn't happy. I had this job where one day my boss stroke my mom is sending me to do a campaign in Uganda. I come back, sleep 2 weeks, you're going to Mombasa, we come sleep 2 weeks, you go to Kisumu. And, you know, if you put that life on Instagram, if you put it on Twitter, I mean, everyone is like, yo, man, you know, you guys, you're living good. But I just kept saying, why am I not happy? You know, and I meet a lot of men, and I was there, so I can actually relate where you believe that when you get the million shillings, then life will be happy. When you buy this car, then life will be happy, and then you get it, and then you realize I'm not. So I panicked because I remembered the darkness of that episode, and until today, I will never forget the scene of walking out of the hospital, bandages on my hands, and I looked into Silas's eyes and he told me, why didn't you tell me? And I think that disappointment, because it's like then, you know that you have friends and you know you have brothers, but then it's then that it hits you. You know, they were there, they took the random bursts of madness and things like that. So of course I started triathlon again. Falgun came back from South Africa, and he was going to do this Ironman competition. And I mean, I was in PR and communication. I said I'll be his PR manager. And it was, for me, it was like to say thank you, because now it's been 4 or 5 years, and you know, you've reflected. You can see what they've done for you. You can see what your friends, what they had to put up with, arrogance and things like that. Maki have not gone for therapy now. So you can imagine the conversations we had post 2014. Like it was me, like, you know, just sharing. But I was cognizant of what they had done for me. But I was still searching for that meaning, that purpose and the like. And then that's when my walk in faith started. So one day I'm in bed, I'm sleeping, and then I have this dream, and I start screaming, and I feel like I'm burning, like I could feel. And how I know the dream was true, that I was screaming, was because the people in the house were like, dude, why were you screaming? And I woke up sweating. So I had this dream that I was burning. So I ran scrummaged to the house, got a Bible, and then I went and I put it on my chest, and then I fell asleep till 9 a.m. And then from there, I did a program called Man Enough, and they began to ask pertinent questions. Man Enough is this. Okay, let me put it into context. We live in a society where every day women complain that men are not pulling their weight. And you'll allow me to speak from a personal point of view, because a lot of men act and react because either they were fathered well, or they were not fathered at all. They had a father figure, a father who was present but absent, or a father who was just, you know, very present, very, very loving, and things like that. And you can tell that divide. So a lot of the people who are raised or born maybe 50s and 60s, I don't know why. It's like they're in the mafia. They have this code of silence. So they don't talk, they don't share. And now you can picture that you have a father or you have a mother who's not used to airing their feelings, not used to talking, not used to sharing and things like that. And then they give birth to children. They will transfer that way of thinking. When I looked back at my life and I saw maybe how I was raised and the impact it had, I began to realize a lot of the decisions that I had made were primarily because my father was in our lives, but he was not present per se. And those are things that we have tried to rectify now. We're consciously trying to talk at least once, twice, thrice a week and things like that. But that's coming from a situation where you'd not even talk maybe for a month, 2 months, 3 months. And you realize there's a lot of bitterness, there's a lot of resentment. And Man Enough is now founded around that. And it's a 12-week program that literally, again, like reshaped how I was viewing my life. Because now, like, I started going to church, and praying and things like that. But again, I was in that space of trying to look for deeper meaning, trying to look for understanding. And then boom, this program comes. It was the first time I saw men speak candidly. One of the biggest topics was sex and how are men introduced to sex, which was a very big eye-opener for me, because you begin to think about things in a totally different light. But I think the one that shocked me the most was, now, what legacy do you want to leave? And coincidentally, at that point in time, my mentor in church, he gave me a book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which I read at like every 2 years because it takes me like a year to read a book. I internalize Adele. Ironically, that point of legacy coincided with a point in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People where you're told to write your eulogy. He walks you into it. Stephen Covey was a fantastic writer. He gave this descriptive, you've gone for a funeral, you see your wife, you see your mother, you see everybody, and then you're walking towards the casket, and then when you get to the casket, it's you. Now write what you want your people to say about you. So he says, stop where the book is there, stop, then go and write. Mine took like many days because I was there, Michael was this, he had a 6-pack, he was still in his 70s, still good looking, blah, blah, blah. All those superficial things. But the more I wrote, I began to realize that I want people to speak about how I impacted their lives. And then when you finish, and it says when you've now finished with your eulogy, pack it, and then now continue with the book. And he has one line after that. Now go and live the way you've talked. It's as simple as that. I remember there I said I want to be married. So, of course, if you're going to date with a purpose. Number 2, you want to have 2 kids. So, at least we're now going to have children. By my business colleagues, so I started talking about my triathlon and all these people that had impacted and how I changed people's lives. And I was like, So from then, I've been literally living that. Because Pastor Simon, during the Man Enough initiative, told us, how many of you know your company vision and mission offered? All of us, to thrive and create strategy and excellence, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, how many of you have a vision and mission for your own life? So I created a vision, I created a mission. Till today, my mission is to use my skills in public relations and triathlon to positively impact lives while spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. Simple. So, and that's how I've done my best to live my life. I know there are people sometimes who may listen to this podcast and be like, bruv, I think, so yes, have I had some dark spots between 2012 and now? Yes, now that time I think I was 3 years into my triathlon journey of training. But then a lot of people started gravitating towards me, like, can we train with you? And things like that. And me, I'd just be that, the Kikuyu blood in me was not effective. Zero, Jaluo flossing all the time. Shika program, created, take, or what is, Baba? I've given you for free. People buy this $150, but here, take free. And then I remember we went for a race in Watamu, and the organizer actually gave me a special commendation because she said when they did the analysis, at least 40 to 50% of the people who came, when the funnel is done back, like Adele came because of Falgun, but Falgun came because of Mikey. So there was always a trickle back to Michael. And then I was like, And then I went for another race in Gilgil, and she's called Sue. Sue asked me, how do you convince 8 people to do this madness? How? And I was like, okay. So I remember one day I was walking home. That's when I say I had no money because I didn't have money for bus fare. So I was walking home and I met my other friend. He's called Angelas. And we just bumped into each other on Gong Road. So even him, he was broke that day and I was broke. And then we're just walking there in our brokenness. And we were going in opposite directions. And we met outside the Shell petrol station on Gong Road, just next to Jiweke. For the guys who go there, that will give you benchmark so you can close your eyes and envision, China Center, Jiweke, woohoo, turn up. And we stood there for almost 1.5 hours just talking. And then I was like, yo, man, I'm feeling led, to start this organization, pull people for triathlon, do events, do trainings and things like that. And that came off the back, what I'd been told in church. I had been talking to Silas, my friend in SA, and he was like, Michael, you have so many ideas. Just choose one. I'm so tired. Every day is a new idea. I'm tired. Can't be reading proposals every day. I have a job. So when you put that together and then now compounded by the desire to want to impact, it was not about the money. I was not making money then. Our company was in the red and we were doing our best to salvage it. But sometimes, I always like to say when it's time to close, it's time to close. Like that journey had come to an end. So I started training guys, no fee and anything. Because I used to train in the morning, I used to train in the evening. So guys would come, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody started asking me like, how much do you charge? And then I was like, because I not put it together. So we did I think Angelas, myself, Silas, and the designer called Tony. So we came together, we created the name. Tony did the logo, and then, he did 3 different logos. And then I said, let's start a team that speaks to what we are going to do. And that's now how I was like, Try Fit Team. Then I was like, no. Then I was like, Fit Try Team. Then I was like, no, definitely not. Then I was like, Team Try Fit. So it's a team that does triathlon and pushes fitness. And then everyone was like, yes, that's it. And then Tony did this amazing logo because it was just TTF. Nobody thought of, he's the one who actually came up with the concept of abbreviating it. And I vowed and I told, I prayed and I thanked God. Now, this was the hardest part, Adele. Remember, I work for my mom. So, your mom has sent you to university to go and study communication, to come and take over her PR consultancy. And now you're telling her, so now I need to go and ride a bicycle for the rest of my life. So initially I tried, I tried to do both. So I'd train guys in the morning, then go to work during the day, then come and train guys in the evening. But I was so knackered. I'd be so tired. But then every time I would go for the evening session, no matter how tired I was, once I got in, this ball of energy, and I'm happy and I'm fulfilled, and I'm seeing somebody tell me I couldn't deadlift or I couldn't run and I couldn't do this and I do this. Oh man, thank you. And this is changing lives, man. This is changing lives. I started getting now requests from guys from as far as Windsor. Can we come and train with you? Thindigua, Runda. And I'm like, you want to come all the way to Impala? Why? Are you mad? So I was like, okay, let's start this. The typical Kenyan way, I think it's even an African way, maybe even a global way, where you first operate in the shadows before you start paying tax. So we operated in the shadow for some time. We had the brand name and everything. We were on Instagram, we were on Twitter, we were on Facebook. And I remember I went and even bought this phone for 40,000 so I can take pictures. And I was like, this is a company investment. This company must pay me back. The lies we tell ourselves, it has never paid me back today. And then, I prayed about it and just I wrote an email to my mom. And I was like, hi, this is where I am. And I feel that I've been put on this path and I would like to explore it. And please just give me your blessing. And she was like, it hurts, but I give you my blessing if that's where you want to go. We now officially registered the company. And right now my youngest client is 11. My oldest client is 72. And every day I'm able to see the people that I work with, lives changing, and the friendships are formed, the bonds that have been formed, the business that we've done. Because now, ironically, I always like to say, yes, I'm a triathlon coach, but I like to coin it as sports PR, with particular focus to triathlon, with particular focus to raising the profile of the sport and the participation of people in the sport. So we've been blessed that TriFit has gotten to that point where it's almost a household name in the triathlon industry in Kenya. I think now I feel like I found my purpose. I found my mission. I found my vision. I found my calling. I'm with my clients on average five times in a week. I have some clients who couldn't walk when they joined. Couldn't walk. They could not walk. And Adele, these are guys now who cycle 180 kilometers. These are guys who run 21 kilometers. One of my clients, from where our gym is situated, his first ever run when he started training with me was literally a trot for 400 meters. So the day that he ran 21 kilometers, showered, changed, and went to the office, and for me, now that's transformation. For me, that gives me fulfillment. It gives me happiness, because we can make as much money as you want in the world, Adele, I can tell you for free. But seeing the smile on his face, seeing the fact that you've taken somebody who had come from surgery, could not walk properly, had clots and things like that, or somebody who believed that she needed to go for knee surgery, and now is cycling 50 kilometers, running 8-9 kilometers, and being able to do squats with a bar on their back, yet they needed to go for knee surgery. Seeing that every day, is my job easy? No. So you have to wake up early. Sometimes you go to bed late. People will come and share with you some of their deepest, darkest secrets and fears and things like that, and you have to walk with them. But especially this year, ironically, despite the COVID pandemic and it hitting business, I mean, when government gives statistics and says X amount of businesses how to close, I realized we were in that statistic. We were actually there because now we pay tax. So yeah, they are like nil, no return. You begin to see the impact that you can make, because now 70% of my clientele were like, yes, gyms are closed, but what's the plan? Are you giving us, And I was like, yeah, we're giving you home programs. Don't worry. I sent, for those who cycle a lot, I sent turbo trainers to them, developed running programs, would do cycles on the weekends. We'd even do on weekdays, because now work was not being done. And then there were no cars on the road. I don't know about other countries, but hey, that was the first time I cycled on Kenyatta Avenue, which is the most important street, at 9 a.m. and there was no car, none, zero. I was like, hey, just from that, seeing people who were living sedentary lives maybe a year ago, now telling you that they want to train irrespective of the COVID pandemic. So whenever I sit back, yes, it's been a long day. You get home at 10 p.m. and you're like, but then you close your eyes and sometimes you want to cry, because you're like, you know what, thank you. You get, are there hard days where you fight with clients? Yes, it's just like every business. There are days I disagree with my clients. I have a different working style with a lot of people. So maybe sometimes I acknowledge that sometimes I don't come off as kind, but because I always tell my clients and my teammates and my athletes that there are so many demons that you're fighting, and I'm proving to you that you don't need, you have the ability to withstand and overcome. Triathlon is a very expensive sport, and it's a very lonely sport at the same time. So sometimes you'll be on a bike and you're cycling 180 kilometers and then you get dropped. Maybe it's a bad day. You're not able to keep up with the gang, and then you get dropped at 120. So you're cycling 60 kilometers alone. Let me tell you, Adele, all those demons that come into your head, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I should give up, why did I get myself into this? In fact, I spent $1,500 on this bicycle, maybe it was not worth it. Oh my God, why did I make this decision? Like, even this coach, how can he just leave us? He's just left me here alone. Now I don't even have water. Let me tell you the things I've heard, because ironically, those are when I used to train as an aspiring athlete, it's the same things I used to tell myself. I remember vividly, there was one cycle I was taken because I didn't go out of will. I was taken by force to Kajiado. I cycled from Nairobi to Kajiado and back. Kajiado, for those guys who maybe are not well versed with how the atmosphere and landscape of Kenya is, maybe about 90 kilometers out, and then you have to come 90 kilometers back. So now mark you that time, I'm a rookie-ish and stuff like that. So I'm used to cycling 40, 50 kilometers. So I'm like, okay, fine. We're going where? Kajiado. 90 kilometers. Wow. We've gone. I was left at 20. left. You hope you see guys in the horizon. Nothing. And then I hit the proverbial wall where, you're dehydrated, sugar levels are low, you start shaking. And then I got to the spot where everybody was, the turning point. There was a nice roadside kiosk. In Kenya, we call them kibanda. So I walked in, and guys told me, you have 7 minutes to eat, refresh, and we are going. We need to be back in Nairobi by 6. So I drank 2 cold Fantas, ate half a chapati, and tried to wolf down some beans. Then started cycling back. 5 kilometers into the cycle, I was done. I wanted to cry. I said, I'm going to quit cycling. I'm going to quit triathlon. If this is what it takes, I don't need it. And then I think one guy in the group noticed. So he kind of stayed back. He's called Katana, Dr. Katana. So he was like, okay, let's go. So you can imagine he's a top tier. At that point in time, he's a top tier cyclist. But then now he has to slow himself to my pace. And mark you now, we have 85 kilometers back to Nairobi for 85 kilometers. So we've cycled. We got back onto the Ep110, which is now Mombasa Road, and then I get a puncture, and I was like, I'm done. I told him I'm taking public transport. I'm done. And then he's like, no. He removes his puncture kit, he removes his pump, fixes the puncture. I'm like, just get lost. Just get lost. Go away, please. Ironically, we made it home before dark. So a lot of the things that have happened in my life, I have tried to implement into my coaching life, because I can now understand when a cyclist hits the proverbial wall. I know how it feels. I think my biggest take home was live fully and live honestly and live openly. So sometimes I have to catch myself because there are days that it's a hard day, you're tired, maybe you almost want to lose it to the client who doesn't seem to be getting it and things like that. And then you have to catch yourself because you remember that I'm living for a purpose. I want this person's life to be positive. When we part ways, I would like you to say that because of Michael, there was a change in my life.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless. I really like that story by Michael. We actually recorded it some point last year, I believe, at his gym where Team TriFit is based. And there was a point where people came in afterwards, like ready to start their evening sessions. And I was like, oh my God, I really need to get back to, I don't know, swimming or some fitness. I know I started swimming again and then I fell off. But I'm back to doing my morning squats. So that counts for something. No, not so much. I really found that story to be quite inspiring. And I hope you enjoyed it as well. I have also slightly changed how you can be on the podcast. So in the description of this episode, there is a link to a Google form. If you want to share your story on Legally Clueless, fill out the Google form and I will be getting back to you. I mean, if you really want to still send your story demos, you can do that. But sometimes it takes me so long to get back to you because the hotline gets so many messages. So the Google form will be a more efficient way. So if you really want to share your story on this podcast, just click the link in the description to the Google form, fill it out, and I'll definitely be getting back to you. The hotline, you can still send audio notes if you hear something on this podcast that you resonate with. This is a community not just for like a select few. It's for all of us who are listening to this podcast. So you hear something, you resonate with it, or maybe you had a different experience, you have something you want to add on, just record an audio note and send it to the hotline number, which is +254 768 628 790.
I want to thank you for creating this podcast. It calms me down when I have anxiety and when I'm panicking about stuff that I really shouldn't panic about. And when I listen to you, it makes me feel like I am not the only one. I've just listened to episode 74 of your podcast, and it made me realize that I was a toxic friend at some point, and my friend did something that I didn't really like, and the way I handled that situation made me toxic. And I feel like this podcast has made me feel the need to confront that and apologize properly. And I really want to thank you.
Oh, that is so awesome. Like that a story could actually help you figure out problematic behaviors that you have. It's always so hard calling yourself out. Maybe I'm the only one who struggles with that. Especially with stuff that requires you to apologize. Now I've gotten a bit better, but it used to be so hard for me to apologize. I think that was one of our first major issues in our marriage, where internally, like in my head, I know it is I have wronged you here. I would do everything and anything except saying the words, I'm sorry. But we've managed to make a lot of progress in that area. So I know how that can be a bit hard. I'm very glad that a story could, get you to do some introspection, Also remember, we have the Legally Clueless video series still ongoing. I am so excited about that, baby. We're doing such a good job. So there's a link to it, of course, in the description of this episode, because the episodes go out every Friday on our YouTube channel. And the episode that's going out this Friday, being the 23rd, is Mercy's story. I don't know if you remember, in episode 88, Mercy came on to this podcast in an audio episode and shared about being an unemployed graduate. Remember her story, this one?
I am an unemployed Kenyan graduate. I had passed quite well because I had gotten an A-. I remember procuring an Instafundi to do my dress for my graduation. It was the situation for what you order versus what you get. But that was a hard day because I was so used to being top of the class. Everyone is like, now you will get a job. Now that you have graduated, now you will get a job. Fast forward to March 2020, COVID-19 hits Kenya and I was deemed non-essential. March, April, my depression was kind of at bay because the whole world has shut down. So we are all the same. It feels like what I need now is to find a job. It's such a big deal that I have put my happiness on hold because I can't wait to get a job to be happy. I thought that the world owed it to me to get the job.
So what's really awesome is Mercy reached out to me a couple of months after that episode aired and she was like, hey, I got a job. And we were just kind of like thinking through the video series and I asked her, hey, would you want to be on the video series? It would be so nice to like tell your story and with this new updates, we made it happen. So I managed to actually meet her because I didn't know Mercy before. She just sent her story demo to the hotline and we recorded the story virtually. So I'd never met her until we shot the Legally Clueless video series. So her episode is going to be out Friday the 23rd of April on our YouTube channel. I think it's one that very many people will identify with and there's so many gems of wisdom she drops. So make sure on the 23rd you check out her episode. This podcast also plays on Trace Radio in Kenya. I've said that earlier. So head over to traceradio.co.ke to stream, but also to find a list of the Trace frequencies in Kenya. The podcast plays there every Monday and Wednesday at 12 noon and 7 p.m. and on Fridays at 12 noon. And just like clockwork, my security guard, Akiti Saskari, has started blasting vernacular gospel music, which is just so dramatic. So this episode has got to end here. That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.